Hello, 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 and welcome to the Mzansi Soccer Show on One World Sports Radio. My name is Mpho and Thabang. I've got Thabang, and we normally every week discuss everything that's happening in South African football, including the DSTV Premiership. And so just a couple of housekeeping things before we carry on. Please do subscribe to our One World Sports Radio YouTube channel. We're currently live on Facebook and on Periscope, which takes you to Twitter, but the video of this will be put up on Facebook. And if you're watching this not on Facebook, on Twitter, and on YouTube, and if you're watching this on YouTube, please do subscribe. And if you're watching this on Facebook and YouTube, please subscribe and like, so we can get into the South African football conversation that's happening on YouTube, so you can get our video as well. Many more people can get our video as well. And one last thing before we go from a housekeeping perspective, remember, you can interact with us on these three platforms. We're currently live on Facebook, as I said, and on Twitter. Those are the handles. As well, we've got an Instagram page as well as a YouTube page. Please do follow and like. We thank you, everyone who's followed and liked and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Please do send your feedback and your comment section in all the platforms. We do appreciate that. This week on the Mzansi Soccer Show, we're going to recap the DSTV Premiership matches of the weekend. Some interesting things. TTM doing big things there. Stalin Bosch on a downward spiral. So we're going to be discussing that. And then in our discussion after that, we're going to be talking Arrows winning Q2 of the PSL. On top of that, we're going to be talking about SAFA's letter to CAF, fighting back on behalf of the South African teams that are playing in CAF, which is a good thing because people all of a sudden are trying to be opportunistic about the fact that there is somewhat a South African variant, and I do it in quotations because we shouldn't be calling it a South African variant. And then towards the back end, we'll be discussing the Nedbank Cup round of 16. Round of 16 is happening this weekend, bar the Mamelodi Sundowns clash, and we'll tell you all about that. So do join us, do sit, enjoy, grab a cup of coffee, and let's go. T-Man, how are you doing?
I'm great, thanks, and yourself, my brother.
That's good. Did you catch any games this weekend?
Of course I did, bro. I watched Kaizer Chiefs up against SuperSport United, and that was the mouth-watering fixture of the weekend. I also watched Cape Town City up against Swallows. Brendan Treater going to his homeland back in Cape Town, looking to put one over the team from Cape Town.
Yeah, T-Man. So let's start with the results. I'm just gonna switch off the banner here so we can see the weekend's results. As you say, T-Man, you watched that Kaizer Chiefs and SuperSport United game. That was also quite interesting. Obviously, Froster scoring early, Chiefs conceding a penalty late. Chiefs are winless in 5 matches as a result of this, and obviously in the game against Horoya, they didn't score any goals. It was a 0-0 draw, so it's winless in 6. Chipa United drawing against TS Galaxy. Lindo Gutlembata keeping TS Galaxy's hopes of running away from relegation alive there against Chipa United. That was a 1-1 draw. Leopards versus Bajoka Fc. That's a 2-1 win for Bajoka Fc against the Limpopo rivals. That broke a 4-game winless streak for Bajoka. On Sunday, you saw TTM play Stellenbosch. TTM under new management, winning their third game in a row there. And it's a 1-0 win against Stellenbosch. This was the third win in all competitions under the new management. Cape Town City FC 1-1 against Morocco Swallows. That was the game you alluded to watching. That was an interesting game for Brendan Truter's side. They went down to 10 men, and there's a lot of injury issues that's happening in Morocco Swallows, which will impact their Nedbank Cup, and we'll talk about that later on. Golden Arrows, during the midweek on Tuesday, Arrows played Leopards. Leopards beating the Q2 Innovation champions 2-1. Mohamed Anas, everyone was waiting to see if he was going to thank his girlfriend and his wife this time after scoring 2 goals against Golden Arrows. Arrows actually going down to 10 men on that one. And then TS Galaxy winning again. They've gone 5 games unbeaten in all competitions in the Premier League, in the DSTV Premiership this season. So they're pushing forward with Oren Dagama against Bloem Celtic, who are also struggling, who've lost their 7th game this season. And then finally, to round off the fixtures this week, it was SuperSport United against Orlando Pirates. I thought there'd be a lot more goals inside there, but there wasn't. and SuperSport United drawing 1-1. They came back with an equalizer there in the 73rd minute. T-Man, what do you make of these results?
But one thing that I've always said about the DSTV Premiership is that you'll always notice. Look at these scores and look at how close it is in each and every single game. I stand to be corrected, but just looking at this array of fixtures and is that every single game that we're looking at the moment was decided by the odd goal, or it was a draw, which shows you how close the teams are together in the DSTV Premiership. There isn't a gulf in class apart from the log leaders being Amazulu Sundowns. There is a gap between Sundowns and the rest of the bunch. Looking at the fixtures, Kaizer Chiefs managed to score an early goal through Reef Fossler. What a cracker of a goal, beating the goalkeeper who we spoke very highly of last week in Ron Williams. Williams never really saw anything with that goal. Reef Fossler was out throughout the season with a long layoff injury, but he is back. He has cemented his spot back into the team for Kaizer Chiefs for the mighty Amakosi faithful. And what a way to kind of further cement your squad, your squad position. And also just alert Molefe Nteki, the coach, that hey, I'm back in the form of Reef Fossler. What a goal there. SuperSport managed to score one back with Bradley Grobler taking the penalty there for Matatata Kyorimpo. Chiefs will feel a little bit let down, and the results haven't really gone their way. This was a fixture where to build the confidence, but as usual, and as we've always seen, the other team manages to find their way back in the game there. Another highlight game that I looked at was Cape Town City up against Swallows. I was really looking forward to that fixture. Swallows is chasing Mamelodi Sundowns. They're looking to bridge the gap there. Swallows scored first. What a cracker of a goal from on the left-hand side by Sekhuta. Sekhuta previously played in Portugal, so he does have a little bit of European experience in Porto. He had a very, very good run, attacked the Cape Town City players, went to the left-hand side and scored a cracker of a goal. Cape Town City unfortunately managed to score, unfortunately for Brendan Tuta's men, managed to score one and managed to pull one back through a penalty. The referee there was Victor Gomez. Victor Gomez is one of our famous referees in South African football, and as he always does, he is a no-nonsense referee. There was a bit of confusion there between was it a red card, was it not? Brendan Tuta was a very angry man at the end of that. Swallows did go one man down, but they were still able to get the 1 point away. And as you mentioned, Arrows. Unfortunately, Arrows lost immediately after winning the Q Innovation. They lost yesterday against Black Leopards, with Anas scoring 2 goals. As you mentioned, he previously plied his trade for Free State Stars, and he's famous in a post-match interview by saying, "I'd like to dedicate this to my girlfriend and my wife." But it's good to see Swallows managing to finally, I beg your pardon, Black Leopards managing to finally win a game under their new management as well, in the form of Letokono Lesiyama. Letokono Lesiyama is well traveled as a coach. He's only starting his coaching career, but he's already been
at I think it's 3 clubs already. Yeah, Bloem, Celtic, Chipper, and now Black Leopards.
But props must go to throughout the show. We've always discriminated TTM. We've always been hard on them. We've always been hard on them in terms of whether it's backgroup organization, unprofessionalism. But credit must go where it's due. TTM have managed to turn a corner. 3 wins on the trot, and as you've always mentioned, in this PSL, where it's so close between every single team. At the moment, TTM has 15 points. Kaizer Chiefs is 19. There's a 4-point gap between the team that was previously second, a team with a history, a history of a rich history in the PSL, and a team which was almost recently established. There's only a 4-point gap between those 2 teams. The ABSA Premiership, the DSTV Premiership is so evenly matched between the rest of the pack. That if you are in the relegation zone, as you've always said on the show, get 2 wins, and you can actually jump 6-7 spots.
And speaking of those 2 wins, TTM got those 2 wins in the last 2 games in the Premiership, and they moved from 9 points. Remember 2 weeks ago, T-Man, when we had this show, before that round of 32 at the Nedbank Cup, all 3 teams at the bottom, TTM, Maritzburg, and Black Leopards, were all on 9 points. One team is still on 9, Maritzburg United. Another team winning midweek is on 12, Black Leopards. But the team that's won 2 in a row since that Nedbank Cup is TTM, and now they're sitting above that playoff spot in 15th. And here's the thing: there's a story written by Mahlatsi Mphahlele, I think of Sowetan, talking about the change in the TTM camp. What caused this change? And it's all about the new management. The players and the management are buying into to Sillo, Mr. Sillo, who is the new owner. They're loving his hands-on approach. I think they've quoted David Matebula speaking about that hands-on approach. And the players are now playing and getting bonuses. So with wins, they're getting bonuses. So there's that incentive for them to win. And there's some, and obviously the story speaks, so it bemoans the fact that the previous regime or the previous ownership at TTM wasn't unprofessional. And I think David Matebula even says that Mr. Sillo has a hands-on approach in the club. Obviously, remember we spoke about last week that Dylan Kerr was seen hanging around acting as a consultant. The teams with the consultants are the teams that currently are on either a 2-game winning streak, and obviously Costa Papic came in before the game for Black Leopards as their technical director, and they've also won. So maybe there's something. If you want to stay in the PSL, you might need a technical director or a consultant. But I'm really happy that at least TTM has turned the corner, and now they need to try and catch the people above them. Another team that I want to talk about is the Stalin Bosch FC. They have not won a league game, in 7. They are now on 13 points. They are on 13th, and the only difference between them and TTM is that TTM have conceded, so they have 15 points with TTM, 13 and 14. TTM's 14. The only difference is that TTM has conceded 6 more goals in Stellenbosch. Something's going wrong in Cape Town, team, and they started quite well. They looked like they could try and make it through, but all of a sudden, it's falling apart, and now they could possibly be caught next midweek when Black Leopards comes through, when Black Leopards plays again. And so that's a very, very important thing. And Black Leopards plays Maritzburg next week Tuesday, which is a massive 6-pointer for those at the bottom. Yeah, T-Man, it's some interesting things that are happening in the PSL right now, especially at that bottom end of the log.
As I always say to you, it doesn't matter how you start, and it's something that you yourself have told me, and it's been my theme of the week. I'm sure you've seen some of my posts on Twitter. It doesn't matter how you start for the season. You can always turn over a new leaf once you get the belief going, once the players are motivated and you get a good run going. It could result in you changing your fortunes, and that's the theme of this PSL, this evenly matched PSL, whereby it doesn't matter how you start. What matters most is how you finish, and it could go either way. And unfortunately, Stalin Bosch, it looks like it's going the other way around. Remember, Polokwane City last season, they started out like a house on fire. Unfortunately, Polokwane City is now they're in the bottom of the Glad Africa Championship.
Yeah,
they're not in the top half. They're in the bottom half of the Glad Africa Championship. So it's you really have to kind of get a good stretch going, especially in the run into the last few games of the league. Everything gets decided.
Well, we're in the second half of the season, and so now let's move on to our first debate topic or discussion topic of the evening. Arrows wins Q2, which I'm happy about because Sundowns wins Q1, and it's the 7 games in between. But the problem is that the Sundowns fans are saying they beat Sundowns by 1 point, right? Arrows got 16 points. Sundowns got 15 points in these 7 games. They had 5 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss. But many people are saying that this game that Arrows lost was supposed to have played, I think in game week 8, but it was postponed and it was brought out to now. And somehow, and what they're saying is that in the first half of the season, when you do Q1 and Q2, Arrows have played one team twice, which isn't supposed to happen. and they were saying that the PSL, the PSL, when they're doing these numbers, that they should have waited until today to announce the winner of Q2 to incorporate this loss here, because obviously it would push Arrows down and Mamelodi Sundowns up. T-Man, are they just fighting over spilt milk, or is there a case?
No, there's no case in point. They're fighting over sport milk. I know that game that was postponed at the Sugar Ray Tuli Stadium. The field was extremely wet. They couldn't have played that fixture. Unfortunately, some of our stadiums in South Africa, the drainage systems are not the best. The drainage systems are not the best, and unfortunately, that game could have not been played. So it was out of Arrows' control that the game was postponed. It was due to a natural man-made, natural elements in the form of rain, flooding, and that's why the game got postponed. The Q innovation was not announced. It was announced a couple of days ago before this fixture. So what if Arrows won this fixture? So should the PSL be doing that? If you were supposed to play a fixture on the first day of the league, and it's now postponed to the third quarter of the league, should we wait until the third quarter to announce the first Q innovation?
No, we shouldn't.
Surely not. That's the logic in it, and plain and simple.
Yes, but here's something that's very interesting, because I was surprised with the fact that Arrows got through, but it's a testament to Mandla Nkazi's coaching, how he set this Arrows team up. They're currently sitting in fifth position on the log after obviously this loss. They are 8 points behind Mamelodi Sundowns. Obviously, Sundowns have taken the trophy on a train, and it's going to take a while for guys to catch them. But like, this Arrows team has I won't lie to you, has surprised me this season. They're normally a mid-table side, top 8, maybe the bottom half of the top 8. But this side has really stepped up this season, especially in this quarter.
No, they haven't, Paul. And as you said, it's under the guidance of Mandla Nkazi. These boys in Paul are playing soccer in KZN and Paul. There's no major spotlight onto them in Paul. It's not about being I'm a PSL player. You should know who I am. It's about grafting, Paul. We're here to work. We're here to earn our salaries end of the month, and Paul. We put in our work on a day-to-day basis, and Paul. We're here to. That's the kind of philosophy that Mandla Nkazi has brought on the day, and Paul. And it's the golden arrows of the past, and Paul. Remember, the golden arrows has produced stars, and Paul. Humble, down to earth, who work from unknown backgrounds. And
They used to be the Bafana defensive midfielder factory with Usangweni, Kuboni, and Dikhachu coming out of that stable.
100% Mpho. Yes, they had Tandisa Kuboni, Mpho. They had Tamsanka Sangweni, who also played there. Mpho. They also had the rock solid Tiabonga Sidu Sangweni, who was also captain, who later on was the captain of the side. Later on went to captain Orlando Pirates. Mpho. So there is a lot of players there. Mpho. They've always had that thing of players who aren't very well known, or players who've started from lesser known backgrounds, Mpho, who are really showing their promise at the club there, down there in KZN. Mpho. Looking at their standout players at the moment, they've got Knox Mutiza. They call him the Knox man up front. Mpho. Very, very instrumental in attacks for them. They've got Gladwin Shitolo. Gladwin Shitolo previously played as trade for Orlando Pirates. Played for Orlando Pirates, Mpho. Really didn't get his Orlando Pirates career going. Mpho. He went on loan to several teams. Went to Jomo Cosmos. And now went to Golden Arrows on loan. Golden Arrows have now signed him permanently. Looks like he's found himself a permanent home there in the defense for Golden Arrows. And they've also got a young an attacker, Pule Modi, very, very good. Pule Modi, very, very attacking player.
Yeah, he got a red card on his birthday. He's one of 2 guys this season to have gotten a red card on their birthday. Alfred Ndengane of TTM, and on the weekend, Pule Modi getting a red card on his birthday. Very interesting stat, but anyway.
Not 100%, but Pule Modi is one of their standout players. Very, very good attacking player. I looked at that red card, but unfortunately he had the ball, and it seemed as though he followed through, and he did catch the player, and unfortunately it was a red card. And that also did put pressure on his team, and after that they couldn't find a way back against Black Leopards. But as we said, Golden Arrow is testament of how they've done things in the past. And remember, this is the team that where we have players like Abiyanale coming from. You know, a lot of players come
Oh,
from Zodukashu, humble backgrounds. Pilani. There was a young player. There was a player back in the day. Pilani Shange, Richard the Hanyekane brothers. And I don't know if you remember the
yes, the
Hanyekane brothers.
Henyekani brothers as well. Yeah.
Joseph
Before
Hanyekane,
one of
Richard.
them, I think, yeah. But that's an interesting thing because it's funny because Golden Arrows, if you look in KZN, of the three footballing brands in KZN, you'd say Golden Arrows is the third out of the two because Amazulu is massive. You know, massive history, massive following. They've got the fans. Everybody loves Usutu. You've got Maritzburg United who've built this machine. Also very I will call it a franchise, a historical club. And they've done well with those Friday night lights, and there was a very well supported side. And then you get Golden Arrows, who are not as they are well run from an organizational perspective, but they don't have the similar following and as such a strong following as the other two. And it's not flashy football, as you say. It's hard-nosed, grinding football. Whenever you go play Golden Arrows, you know that you're going to get a tough one. It's just that now they've added goals to that side of their game. You know, they're very strong defensively, which is what we've seen throughout this season. And the question has always been where the goals are going to come from. They found a way to make sure that they shut people down and come out with goals. It's a similar way to what Swallows is doing, but now Swallows is coming unstuck because now they're drawing a lot of games, and that's something that we need to Brendan Truton needs to fix, and fix very soon, because this league is running away from them. And you can see with Golden Arrows, they've also drawn quite a lot of games, and for the two teams, the last two teams to be undefeated. Obviously, Swallows is still undefeated, but Golden Arrows, obviously, they lost a few games along the way before they got here, and you can see that they've kind of let this title thing slip because they've accumulated a lot of draws. Whereas with the amount of games that they had lost, if they had turned a couple of those draws into wins, they'd be up there chasing Sundowns. It's an 8-point gap, which means that if you convert 3 of those draws that they have to wins, you're 2 points away. And that those are the things that I think going into the next half of the season, Mandla Gasi needs to try and nip in the bud, is that you need to necessarily stop. You can hold games, but you need to try and win a few more, especially at home, this season. But T-Man, let's move on to the CAF. The CAF and the South African teams playing in CAF. So SAFA. So obviously we saw that the postponement of Kaizer Chiefs' game in against Wydad Casablanca because of the visas being not accepted or not approved. Sundowns had a similar issue with CR Belzoud of Algeria, to which then prompted CAF to ask the Moroccan side and the Algerian side to find neutral venues. They gave them ultimatum for Sunday, and somehow they found venues. Sundowns is playing in Tanzania. Kaizer Chiefs is chartering a plane to Burkina Faso to play in the 4th of August stadium there against Wydad Casablanca. But it was all prompted from a letter that went out last week from SAFA to CAF, letting them know that this discrimination against the South African footballing teams, and it's the 3 big ones, it's Pirates, Sundowns, and Kaizer Chiefs, on the fact that there's this South African COVID variant, even though South African cases have improved, is unfair. They quoted research, they quoted doctors, they really put their effort in. And I was happy about this team, and this is the angle I want to go. I was really happy because finally SAFA is standing up for the teams in the country. Normally SAFA would just sit back and just let this thing unfold. And we've always bemoaned. You saw the way the Bafana Lecoq Sportif situation was handled, and how it was done. And earlier on in this podcast, in earlier episodes, we spoke about how badly SAFA has done things. But this is the one thing we can say, well done.
No, I agree with you, though. If you look at the letter was very well written. It pointed out research facts. It put questions out to CAF. Show us, give us medical research that can justify your claims. And CAF was at a standstill, and they couldn't respond properly. and it kind of moved things forward for our teams. And there has been a resolution, and they are able to play their games. I saw Horoya who played Kaizer Chiefs. Was it yesterday? They actually,
Wednesday.
Yes, yesterday. They actually
Yesterday.
they actually applauded Kaizer Chiefs and said to Kaizer Chiefs, "Thank you very much for hosting us in such a great manner. We really enjoyed being hosted by a club of your stature, and we really enjoyed our time in South Africa." And that is testament to show that how our South African nature is, that we want you to come to South Africa. We're gonna give you the best treatment ever, but we want to beat you onto the field of play. We don't want to beat you with tactics or dirty tactics whereby we use unsportsmanlike characteristics to kind of get an edge on you before we get to the field of play. So by the time we get to the field of play, we are meant to be beaten and stuff. So that's not our style. And I think massive props to SAFA, massive props to Kaizer Chiefs, who hosted Hora in a very, 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 very great manner. And let us continue doing so. Let us continue doing this. So, I mean, SAFA in their letter also spoke of that Sao Tome match where they said, listen, we brought Sao Tome here. We hosted them very well, and we were able to play both games, home and away here with Sao Tome. Sao Tome did not complain and say we hosted them in an unusual and we use unsportsmanlike characteristics. Sao Tome actually appreciated the way in which South African football hosted them, and that is testament, and that is symbolic of our South African nature and South African philosophy. And props to CAF, because they used such examples just to show and demonstrate to CAF how we actually deal with these situations. And the Moroccan teams, they really surprise me sometimes. They love using these mental tactics. They love using they love using unsportsmanlike characteristics to beat you mentally, to defeat you before you get into the field of play. Imagine, they told Kaizer Chiefs on the day when we were supposed to fly that
no visas.
Imagine, a letter was written to the ambassador of South Africa in Morocco. CAF spoke. The Moroccan Football Association, South African football spoke to the Moroccan Football Association. Every necessary step was taken by Kaizer Chiefs. But it's such things are going to justify the reasons why Kaizer Chiefs in the past has not elected to play in Africa. If these are the kinds of things that they're going to face, it's just too much. It's just too much for the players. It's too much for the team. It's too much for the. Imagine you incurred costs on getting a flight. Flights are not the cheapest at the moment. It's not, flights aren't regular going out of South Africa.
And it's charter flights because it's charter flights because I don't think you can fly to Morocco directly, and you either have to go through the Emirates or you have to go through Europe. Now the problem is no one's allowing South African flights anywhere, so it has to be a charter flight to Morocco, just like how Kaizer Chiefs is flying to Burkina Faso tomorrow, and so. It is mind games, team, and I'm happy CAF gave the North African teams, because obviously Beloui's dad is Algerian, and we've got Casablanca in Morocco, and I'm really, really happy that they made them that ultimatum to force them to find a neutral ground elsewhere. Now they have to fly from Morocco to Burkina Faso. It's outside of their home comforts. Obviously, Kaizer Chiefs, they were going to make the trek anyway, but they're making it halfway there to Ouagadougou. So I'm really happy from that perspective, because I think these mind games, and SAFA called it, SAFA, and I'm quoting here, they said that it was opportunistic for these clubs to try and do this and force South African teams to play in neutral venues, because and our cases are going down. I think 3 weeks ago we were at 250,000. Now we're at 31,000 active cases, so that's a good thing. And obviously, if you're listening to this and you're following this, please do stay safe, socially distance, put your mask on, and let's fight this pandemic with the one while we all wait for the vaccines to come. Team man, let's talk about South African football. One last thing, Nedbank Cup. This weekend, round of 16, the last round, we saw the big giant slaying Richards Bay take out Kaizer Chiefs. That was the big surprise of the round. Now we've got round of 16 happening this weekend, starting tomorrow, And so here are the fixtures. I'm going to put them up. You've got a Cape Derby. Actually, these teams are separated by a road in Parow. Cape Town All-Stars versus Cape Town Spurs. You know Cape Town Spurs is former Ajax Cape Town. Ikamva is a road, is literally separated by Cape Town All-Stars by a road in Parow. So that's going to be an interesting one. One team is at the bottom of the log in Glad Africa Championship with his All-Stars, but Cape Town Spurs seemingly have found a way. They have 4 games unbeaten in the Glad Africa, well, in all competitions. TTM versus Morocco Swallows. Swallows is drawing everything. They've got 5. Brendan Truter said today that he might have to be forced to make 5 changes. You've got TTM who are fighting, playing for bonuses here, trying to make it 4 out of 4. On Saturday, it's Black Leopards versus Amazulu, which I think is going to be very interesting. I think this is Amazulu's chance to get a trophy, especially after the investment from the Zungus, as well as with Benny coming in, and Black Leopards have seemingly now turned the corner and won a game. They can make it 2 out of 2. Maritzburg United are still struggling at the bottom of the log, and they come up against Orlando Pirates. This could be a slippery run for Pirates with the team at the bottom of the log. It is a cup game, so that's what makes it all the more interesting. On Sunday, Pretoria Callies. Remember Pretoria Callies, Masterpieces Moripe. I think Pretoria Callies is now, used to be, was bought out and is now Super Sport in some form. But now the Pretoria Callies started again a couple of years ago. They've moved up the ranks in South African football. Now they're in the Glad Africa Championship, which is awesome. They get to play a Tshwane derby against JDR All-Stars, JDR Stars. You've got TS Sporting against Richards Bay United, another Glad Africa Championship clash. Chippa United versus Cape Town City. And then you've got Mamelodi Sundowns and Polokwane City. This game is postponed till the 10th of March because Sundowns will be playing in CAF Champions League match this weekend in Tanzania. T-Man, looking at these fixtures, what are you excited? What should we be excited to see as the fans, as people are watching these games?
Looking at Friday's fixtures, important. The highlight fixtures definitely TTM up against Morocco Swallows important. The Juba Birds have been started the PSL season like a house on fire. But TTM in their last 4 games have really shown their potential. In the last round of this fixture of this Nedbank Cup, Thabo Mnyamane scored the odd goal to put one past his former employers in SuperSport United. So as you said, TTM are fighting to kind of redeem themselves from the mediocre or subdued start that they had to the PSL season. So this is what a great way for to get a good cup run going and beating the team that's currently unbeaten in the PSL in Morocco Swallows. Looking at Saturday's games, and for you, Maritzburg United are definitely, this is not their focus at the moment. The Nedbank Cup is not a focus of theirs. So I'm sure that Ernst Biddendorf and his troops will know very well that this is the cup is not there for the team's focus at the moment. Under Farouk Kadodia, their focus is on making sure that next season, and hopefully when the fans are back, that they're still in the PSL. So Orlando Pirates are going to walk away with that one. Black Leopards are up against Amazulu. Amazulu are doing very, very well at the moment. I expect, as you said, Sani Lezubi is looking for a little bit of return on investment. And what a way to do so than to get a 10 million rand check in the form of the Nedbank Cup.
25% back.
25% back. We as Paul works in private equity, so it's all about IRRs and return on equity, making sure that you get your return on investment. So Sani Lezungu will definitely be doing his modeling there to make sure that he gets that return on investment in the form of they call it the internal rate of return. Looking at Sunday's fixtures, a lot of it's a lot of first division games, teams from the Glad Africa Championship. But as I always say, this tournament of the year is where we see the future stars of the future. This tournament is where we found Aubrey Mudiba. This is the tournament where we found Andy Lejali. This is the tournament where we found some of the players who are setting the PSL and the Bafana Bafana alike at the moment. So those are the games that I'm really, really looking forward to. Polokwane City up against Mamelodi Sundowns, even though that fixture is in future. Sundowns are gonna. This is a chance for Sundowns' third string players to kick the ball around and just improve their fitness and just.
Hey. It's the players who haven't traveled. But the interesting one is that Elias Pelembe has signed for Polokwane City. He has been a free agent. He played for Wits last year. He's been a free agent all season. He just signed this week for Polokwane City in the Glad Africa Championship. So you might be seeing some old faces when they come up against Mamelodi Sundowns.
We cannot forget Elias Belembe, a former PSR player of the season. Started out at SuperSport United, went on to Mamelodi Sundowns. He was one of the best players in the PSR. He is a little bit on the old side at the moment. So he, as a winger, your strength comes from your speed when you are at your younger days. But I'm sure he's still got his maturity. He still will guide the youngsters at Polokwane City, and hopefully he can steer them into the top half of the Glad Africa Championship.
Yes, yes, that is very true. So those are the Nedbank Cup fixtures. I'll just put them up again for everyone to just have a look. These are the games for the weekend. I've gone through them. So if you have time, do catch them. Thabang and I will be watching most of them and seeing what is happening in the Nedbank Cup. Remember, they are one step closer to the 10 million rand check if you win. A lot of the teams who are underdogs here, if they come out with a draw, it goes to penalties. There's no second leg here happening. Goes to penalties, and it's do or die. So you could see some upsets here, which is what we've seen in the last round with Kaizer Chiefs getting knocked out. Maybe this round we might just see some other upsets from lower ranked PSL teams against the more the teams who are faring better this season. But T-Man, thank you very much for joining. To everyone who's watching, thank you very much. Really appreciate the fact that you've taken the time to watch the Mzansi Soccer Show here on One World Sports Radio. Remember to please subscribe and follow and like onto that YouTube channel, and follow us on our various platforms. I'll just put them up again. You can follow us on our various platforms. We've recapped the stuff. We've discussed all the stuff that's happening in South African football. The one other thing I could say is Bongani Zungu's apology has been accepted. So let's hope he might get a game sometime soon towards the back end of the thing. But it's the only other thing that as a South African fan you're hoping for, and maybe a Percy Tau appearance somehow, somewhere. Brighton have the highest expected goals ratio of any team in the English Premier League, and they still can't score. And Percy's on the bench, and a lot of us are asking for him to be playing. But please do be kind to the Brighton admin on Twitter, please. Let's not bombard them and be disrespectful. But outside of that, enjoy the football that's going to be happening this weekend in the Nedbank Cup, and we'll see you next week. We'll be back again next week, 7:30 on a Thursday, discussing all the things that are happening in South African football for myself and Thabang on the Mzansi Soccer Show on One World Sports Radio. Nesale kakagis.